On behalf of the Board of Directors, as you wend your way to your tables, it is our pleasure to welcome you to the American Academy of Nursing's 2013 Living Legends Recognition Ceremony. It's already been a great first day. I hope everybody has enjoyed the opening session and the first poster session. And thank you again to the Planning Committee. Yeoman work. I want to start our evening by saying that we are again incredibly grateful to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center for its generous sponsorship of this ceremony and reception. Before we begin this year's Living Legends ceremony, I have the pleasure of introducing this year's President's Award recipient. The President's Award is bestowed by the President of the American Academy of Nursing to an individual for distinguished service to nursing and healthcare. The award was established to recognize individuals for their foremost dedication to excellence in promoting quality of care in nursing. This year's recipient is a highly respected member of the healthcare community, shaping policy and practice through her organizational work and personal advocacy. I am honored to announce that this year's President's Award recipient is Dr. Linda Cronin. From a passionate statement 11 years ago that something has got to be done to involve nursing in the IOM work and improving quality, to being the person to get the ball rolling through a grant from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, Dr. Linda Cronin has shown what one person can do to get things started in creating an international movement. What is now known as QSEN, or Quality and Safety Education for Nurses, has become a standard set of competencies for nursing education, a foundation for academic clinical partnerships, and a framework that is shaping education for all health professions schools. Linda would be the first to say that it took an army to get this far with QSEN, and indeed it has. But one person had to start the march. And for that reason, we honor you, Linda, with the President's Award.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, President Dish, and thank you. Thank you, President Dish and the Academy Board of Directors for an honor that's incredibly meaningful to me, both as an individual nurse who's had a professional home in the Academy for 25 years now, and more importantly, on behalf of the profession that I love, that has spent almost a decade now improving how we prepare nurses so that they are better able to assume accountability for continuously improving the healthcare systems in which they work. In accepting this honor, I want to acknowledge my mentor, Dr. Paul Batalden, and the nurses of the Dartmouth Summer Symposium learning community who were with me every step of the way on this process and still are today. I also want to acknowledge my philanthropic partners, Sue Hassmiller, Mary Joan Ladden, and Rosemary Gibson, without whom QSEN wouldn't exist as a movement. They shepherded 4 phases through periods when the foundation's resources were low, so that we had millions of dollars to move the needle on this work. The work was joy from the start to finish, from the nurse faculties around the world, truly around the world, who accepted the need to change and met the challenge with enthusiasm and innovation. To our practice partners who kept our eye on why we had to change, and who also then adapted the work in their performance appraisals, job descriptions, and new graduate residencies. And to the many nursing organization leaders who were also with us from the beginning, who moved their communities to incorporate these standards into our standards of practice and accreditation. It truly has been a journey of love, and to all of you, and on behalf of all of you who have shared that leadership with me, I accept this with great, great delight. Thank you very much.
There are many ways that our fellows are advancing policy and strengthening the Academy. In 2011, we were privileged to announce that living legend Reba DeTournier, a founding member of the Academy and also its first president, allowed us to rename the annual fund in her honor, the Reba DeTournier Development Fund. It is my pleasure to announce that over the past year, 242 individuals have donated to the fund. Of that, 58 individuals made gifts of $1,000 or more to the fund, qualifying them to receive the President's Circle designation. As you can hear, we have hundreds of people, though, we would love to welcome into the President's Circle. These very generous gifts allow the Academy to create new opportunities that could not otherwise be pursued, such as our continuing relationships with the Institute of Medicine and our Have You Ever Served in the Military campaign. We are grateful for your support of the Reba DeTournier Development Fund. Now to the night's delightful business. In 1994, the Academy wanted to recognize our most esteemed fellows, those who had made unique, outstanding, and long-lasting contributions to the nursing profession and to society. Accordingly, the Academy named its first class of Living Legends, and we celebrated them that first year. As you know, the contributions of the Academy's Living Legends reach far and run deep. Their impact is felt throughout the nation and actually often the world. This ritual to acknowledge them has become a favorite part of our annual celebration. While we have lost some of our living legends since the program started in 1994, I nonetheless want to pay tribute acknowledging by year of award reception, and I would invite those living legends here tonight to please stand as their name appears on the screen. Those living legends who were selected between 2008 and 2012, would you please stand for our recognition and appreciation? Those living legends who were selected between 2004 and 2007, please rise and accept our appreciation. Those living legends who were selected between 2000 and 2003. And those living legends who were selected in the early years between 1994 and 1999. We will have an opportunity later to talk with all of our living legends. And now, I am very pleased to introduce this year's extraordinary fellows who are our 2013 Living Legends. Helping me in this recognition is our President-elect, Diana Mason. It is my pleasure to first introduce Clara Adams Ender. From humble beginnings to becoming the first nurse in Army history to be selected as a commanding general, Clara Adams Ender has achieved remarkable success. She began her career on an Army scholarship and quickly progressed through many roles, ranging from staff nurse to chief nurse executive for all Army nurses, and finally brigadier general. Not surprisingly, she has experienced many firsts in her career, which are highlighted in your program. She has received 14 honorary doctoral degrees, and the appreciation of thousands of nurses and colleagues she has influenced throughout her long and illustrious career. We are honored to recognize you, Clara Adams Ender, as an American Academy of Nursing Living Legend. We will now hear We will now hear from one of General Adams Ender's sponsors, fellow Robert Piemonte.
I've known Clara Adams Ender for many, many years. I was the chief nurse of the 8th Medical Brigade in Fort Hamilton when she was the chief of the Army Nurse Corps. And so we had many, many contacts, and we got to know one another very, very well. And I've grown to know, love, and respect her for all that she has done for the nursing profession. Clara Adams Ender is a woman of firsts. She was the first woman in the United States Army to qualify for and earn the field medical badge. That was in 1967, and in 1975, she was the first African-American nurse to attend the United States Army Command and General Staff College. In 1991, she was the first nurse in Army history to remain on active duty following her tenure as Chief of the Army Nurse Corps. The jewel in the crown of her career was her assignment as the commander of the first nurse to be assigned as the commander of a major Army base, and that Army base was Fort Belvoir in Virginia. She was commanding at a time when their operating budget was $90 million, with a construction budget of $940 million. And I think these achievements really speak uniquely to her uniqueness as a professional, as a soldier, as a woman of color, and as a nurse. She is certainly a woman for all seasons. Clara is a very charismatic, knowledgeable, and inspiring leader and speaker. And few people ever leave her presence without acknowledging those attributes and having felt touched by her presence. She's very able. She is a very able individual with regard to mentoring others, to bringing others up into the profession, so to speak, and to really, she is a role model for people who really want to emulate her very fine qualities. Clara has advanced the profession of nursing through her writing and through her speaking. She continues to be a role model for many individuals, current leaders, past leaders, and certainly future leaders. I can recall when I was the executive director of the National Student Nurses Association, the students would flock around her when she spoke at a convention, and they were so enamored of her and of her whole approach to not only the situations about which she spoke, but to her as an individual. They could relate to her in spite of the fact that she was a general who held the highest position one could hold in the Army Nurse Corps at that particular time in history. Clara's passion for nursing is so obvious to the entire community of not only academe, but the entire professional community. I would be remiss if I didn't say that she is the recipient of 14 honorary doctorates. That in itself speaks volumes to the contribution that she has made to nursing and continues to make. And the profession is fortunate to have her. She is a giant. To have her not only as one of our members, but as a member of this academy, and certainly as a living legend of the academy. In closing, I can't think of anyone more deserving of this honor, and I am so proud to be numbered among her, or to have her numbered among us as a member of this profession.
Please join me. I now invite Clara Adams Ender to join me at the podium for your award.
President Dish, Academy members, good evening. I shall be brief. I've always wanted to say this in my lifetime. I would like to thank the Academy. But this time I'd like to do it for a different reason, and that is the reason that I won't have to go with my grave to my grave thinking that I was only a legend in my own mind. Thank you all very much. It has really been my honor and privilege being with you. And I need to just say up front that I did not choose this profession. My father chose it for me. However, once I was in and I found out about the challenges that's involved in nursing practice, I was hooked. I have told many, many audiences many, many times that nursing has been a lot of things, but never dull. Yeah. And for those military people that are here, and there are a number of military people that are here, why don't the military people stand up? Why don't y'all stand up over there? Yeah. These are a special group of nurses that I had the privilege and honor of serving with and of leading for a period of time. And I will tell you, Army nurses are a tough crowd. Yeah. There are some who are still here on active duty. They know exactly what I'm talking about. And there are a number who have retired or left active duty. They know what I'm talking about too. But I will tell you, it's my privilege and honor. I'm watching what's going on as far as nursing is concerned, and I need for y'all to know, even though I'm old, I'm not dead yet. And I believe heaven is my home, but I'm not ready to go. But I will be watching you. These are exciting times for nursing and for health care. And of course, after 52 years in it, you know I know a little bit about it. And I'll be around to watch and see what you do with your profession in the future. Thank you.
The next living legend to be recognized, excuse me? On behalf of the National Black Nurses Association. The next living legend to be recognized tonight is Hattie Besant. Dr. Besant has been a passionate advocate for two underrepresented groups in our society, minority nurses and those with mental illness. She has significantly improved our country's health through innovative programs that open doors for minority nurses and that improved mental health care. One example is her work as Deputy Executive Director of the American Nurses Association's Ethnic and Racial Minority Fellowship Programs, where she assisted more than 225 nurses from Asian, Black, Native American, and Hispanic backgrounds to receive doctoral training in the behavioral sciences and psychiatric nursing. Her many prestigious honors and legion of mentees affirm why it is so appropriate, and we are so pleased to recognize you, Dr. Besant, as a living legend. We will now hear from one of her sponsors, fellow Bev Malone.
Well, you know, I would call her Dr. Hattie Besant because she has been my mentor for more than 30 years. And I was a student, a graduate student in her program, the ANA Ethnic Racial Minority Fellowship Program. And she had an incredible influence on my life, on my career. And the nicest piece is, even after I got out of the program, she remained my mentor. And I don't think I'm unique. I would like to think I'm unique, but the truth is, she's done this for hundreds and hundreds of people. What makes Dr. Besant a great role model is the fact that she is who she is. She carries herself in such a way that when you look at her, I want to be like her. And then when she speaks, you know you want to be like her. And she has such a passion for nursing and she's a psychiatric mental health nurse, and she's a star at that. And when you're a student coming along and you're looking for someone to sort of model yourself after, Dr. Hattie Besant stands out. She was continually challenging us. And I think that's such a unique blend of support and challenge. Her contribution is one, she's not only been a leader herself, but she's been producing leaders. She is a manufacturer of leaders. You know, that's who, as my children say, that's how she rolls. She produces leaders, and there's nothing quite like it. To see her actually working with others and shaping them and molding them, helping them to understand systems and understand organizations and how you can take healthcare and make sure that the people get what they need. She is a purist when it comes to making sure patients get what they need. And I love that about her. She was famous for calling at 6 a.m. and 5:30 a.m. in the morning. I mean, that's how you would know it was nobody calls you at that time. Dr. Besant calls all of us at that time of the morning. And so sometimes she would, if you had a partner or a husband, she would wake that person up, and they got to know her. They got to understand. They just passed the phone over to whoever the graduate was working on the doctorate. But by calling like that, she set up your day, and she challenged you to begin your day. And I think that calling first thing in the morning is about how intense her passion is for us becoming leaders, finishing our doctorates. So many people don't, you get stuck in it. No, she wasn't having any of that. And there was just something so precious about how she would stay with you through the journey. Not just part of the journey, but the whole journey. All of her life, she's been a woman of first. So she's been, first at getting honorary doctorates at a particular school, first at getting her doctorate at a certain place, first at this award and that award. She's been a woman of first. And this is a living legend. That means you don't have to be horizontal in order to get your honor. And you can actually talk to people about your honor. And if anyone deserves to get their honor and to have a conversation about it, it's truly Dr. Besant.
Dr. Besant, will you join me at the podium for your award?
Yes.
Thank you, Academy. It has been a long, long time. A great psychologist, a friend of mine, James Jones, said to me to read his book on how people decide how they're going to live. His book states that there are two paths that all of us look at, think about, and decide which one we will take. At a very early age, I decided what journey I would take. And maybe it wasn't me. It might have been my 103-year-old grandmother. But the two paths are, one, motivated by the best sense of liberty, equality, fraternity, and moves us forward in the experiment in creating a perfect society. A second path is filled with fear, self-interest, ignorance, and mistrust, and it tends to turn us backwards, and we move only backwards, never forward. I have chosen the path less traveled, the first one that I said to you, that leads to liberty and equality, justice, and opportunity. I have mentored, I have supported those who can make a difference to people's lives and those whose lives and opportunities hung in the balance. I have been mentored and supported by colleagues and many of you who are in this audience. I thank you for your aid in helping me to go along this journey that I'm taking and that I have taken for the last 50 years. That path being a path has been focused on bending the art toward justice, but it bends towards justice and justice and justice. My career has been focused on bending this art towards justice, bias, discrimination, fear, no anxiety, and no self-doubt. All of you who have helped me on this journey, I am grateful to you. I thank you. I am extremely, extremely thankful to you who have helped me. I have talked to every president since President Eisenhower about mental health, including this one we have now. And some of you are too young to remember President Eisenhower, but he was interested in mental health. A lot of you remember President Carter because his wife was interested in mental health. But I keep trotting and trotting and trotting and trotting to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue until they say, "Is that lady again?" Also, the presidents of most universities, when I call, they say, "Is that lady again?" I'm asking for them to please admit another young woman to receive her doctorate, and not asking him for money, but to give her an opportunity. I am truly honored by this organization and it share with all of you that you really have been a part of me and this journey that I will continue to keep to make it a perfect union and a perfect society. I thank you.
Our third living legend of the night is Margaret Miles. Dr. Margaret Miles has been a researcher, author, educator, mentor, and most would say the mother of pediatric nursing. As a founding member and first president of the Society for Pediatric Nursing, she pioneered the role of the pediatric clinical nurse specialist in the field of study now known as the care of children with special health care needs. Her work has illuminated the issues that parents face when dealing with the death of a child or one who is critically ill, or the needs of low-income and minority mothers, including mothers of premature infants and infants with HIV. For your lifetime of work in improving the care of children and their families, we are so honored to recognize you, Dr. Miles, as a living legend in the Academy. We will now hear from one of Dr. Miles' sponsors, fellow Martha Curley.
I've known Marge since my master's program, when I was developing an interventional model to help parents decrease stress in the pediatric intensive care unit. If you were a pediatric nurse, it was all about taking care of the kids that were sitting in the beds, not necessarily the people around the beds. And she was the first person to notice that pediatric nursing was not about just kids. It was about patients and families. And as nurses, we intervene with families as much as we do with the children that are in the bed. Marge also was a pioneer for the profession in that she was one of several people who came together to form the Society of Pediatric Nursing. She was the first president for the society. She continued to mentor people over the years as the society grew from a very small organization to where it is today. So she helped me understand what it was like to be a mentor, to take people's calls, to help them think about how they can uniquely contribute to the profession, and to take everyone's calls and be patient and to be given. And she's the most selfless person that I've met within the profession of nursing. So when I think about Marge, she's extremely humble. She is like a dog on a bone. As far as her passion around patients and families, around parents stressed in the intensive care unit, about parents who are losing their children, who are dying, how nurses can make that better. She's done work with families whose children are dying of HIV. So she cares passionately about the work, but she's humble about the contributions that she's made about that work. It's taking an award like this to really call attention to someone who started off as really the first clinical nurse specialist in pediatrics, having such a wonderful connection to the practice of nursing, having their program of research evolve from the practice of nursing, and knowing nursing so well that they can articulate it, they can study it, and help others recognize it so that the profession itself evolves. And so she's made such a significant impact to the profession of pediatric nursing, called attention to what people might not think was important within the discipline, but certainly creates the discipline. Marge's legacy is the Society of Pediatric Nursing. Marge was one of the group, she was one of a group of individuals who came together to birth the society, and not only that, mentor the leadership over years so that the society is where it is today. Marge deserves this award because she's the first pediatric nurse to articulate what pediatric nursing is all about.
Dr. Miles, please join me at the podium.
Never in my wildest dreams, when I decided firmly at the age of 12 that I would be a nurse, did I think I would have such a rewarding and fulfilling career. I have done so many things. I have traveled around the world. I have helped people who were facing very difficult situations, and I've been able to mentor so many young people. To be named a living legend really tops it all off, doesn't it? Thank you. Thank you, Academy, and thank you to my sponsors. And I want to say a few other things, but I also want to give thanks to my husband, who's now deceased, and that's because he helped me so much. He was I can't tell you how much he supported me. He would be so proud of me. And to my daughter, who grew up running to the hospital with me when I had emergency calls from distraught parents, and sit in the waiting room and watch all the parents in there. She's another support. When I think of my long career in nursing, 55 years to date, my most vivid and sacred memories are of helping dying infants and children and their families, even though my later part of my career was very rich and rewarding in research and scholarship and teaching and mentoring, all those things important. But when I got my master's at the University of Pittsburgh, I was inspired by Florence Erickson and Reva Rubin, and learning more about what infants were going through when they were ill, and what children were going through, and what parents were going through. Because at that time, no one paid any attention. No one paid any attention to children and thought they understood anything, so they weren't told anything. They would just go in the hospital, have surgery, go through pain and procedures, and people didn't talk to them about what was going on. And parents were kind of on the sideline. In fact, I worked in some places where parents could not visit their infants when they were in a neonatal kind of situation. They couldn't visit their premature infants. And I just learned this week from our visitors from China that parents in China still cannot visit their premature infants anywhere in China. I have another battle to fight. I don't know if I can fight the Chinese physicians because it is not the nurses. They don't have power over who can visit, unfortunately. And I think that one of the things that I especially appreciated was parents sharing their pain and their suffering and their emotions with me over all those years when I was a CNS, and also did some support groups for bereaved parents as a volunteer. I learned from parents especially about what grief was like for parents, and I found out that they didn't really understand what they were going through. They thought they were going crazy. Typically, they would say that. So I wrote a pamphlet from what I learned from them. I wrote a pamphlet talking about grief and the process of grief and tried to normalize it and minimize the guilt and so forth and what things to do when you're in this situation. And parents liked it. I gave it to the parents that I was working with, and I gave it to one of my neighbors whose adult son had died in an accident, and he sent me the most beautiful, beautiful letter about how that just really hit where it needed to hit. It was really on target. So I donated it to Compassionate Friends in the 70s, and they've been printing it, and I just kind of forgot about it. But last fall, they called me, and they asked me if I would update, well, they emailed me. I guess email's the way now. He asked me if I would update the pamphlet, and he wanted more in there about adult children, because a lot of people that go to Compassionate Friends are parents whose adult children have died. And I said, oh, why don't you just get someone to do another pamphlet? And he said, oh, no, you don't understand. This is the only thing we publish. So here for over 30 years, it's been reaching parents all over the country, if not the world. So I just want to say I feel that was my most important contribution as a nurse. Thank you.
Our final living legend tonight to be recognized is Jean Watson. Dr. Jean Watson's work in caring science has revolutionized our thinking by elevating the idea of honoring patients' experiences and human caring as a serious disciplinary field of study before the Institute of Medicine recommendations. Her thinking has transformed 21st century models of professional nursing education, research, leadership, and care delivery, and has been adopted by countless schools of nursing around the world. As several of us saw last week at the Magnet Conference, it has also been adopted by prestigious healthcare systems around the world. For your revolutionary thinking and international impact, we are pleased to recognize you, Dr. Watson, as a living legend. We will now hear from one of Dr. Watson's sponsors, fellow Kristen Swanson.
Jean Watson was my dissertation chair, and I can remember the first time I met her. It was in her backyard in Boulder, Colorado. And we were brand new doctoral students. I think I had arrived in town 2 weeks earlier, first time in Colorado. And she had us to her home, and little did I know at that moment how much my life was going to change from meeting this woman. So what makes Jean a good role model is she lives as though you are, as her mentee, she lives as though you are more than you ever knew you were yourself. So when she would speak to me, even as an early student, she used words like postmodernism and humanism and praxis and epistemology. And I would look at her thinking, she must think I understand the meaning of these words because she's using them to me. But what I would do, of course, is to run home after the conversation and look them up. And I've learned since that when a role model holds the bar high, you find out you're worth more than you ever knew yourself. Jean Watson has advanced the profession of nursing in many ways by bringing us back to the very basics, the relational, the alleviating human suffering, reminding each of us how we were in many ways called to make a difference in the lives of those we care for. We practice that. Jean writes about it. She discusses it. She studies the historical roots of it. She examines the philosophy behind it. And when she shares what she knows, it's like holding a magnificent mirror up to each nurse and the profession, and that we can listen, we can look, and we can see ourselves and our profession much larger than we ever knew it was. One time, Jean was invited to the University of Göteborg to receive an honorary doctorate in Sweden, and she had the opportunity to invite along one scholar from the United States, and I was the designee. So off we went to Sweden together, and I will never forget the day, the celebration. It was everything you see in a Nobel Prize, with the 20 waiters with the food all come walking in tuxedos. Her daughters were there, I was there, and Jean was just her everyday self with everybody around her, and I could tell the joy for her was certainly getting the honor, but it was more sitting there with her two daughters and receiving the honor. That was vintage Jean. She can be a living legend. And she's somebody's mom and grandmom, and in my mind, a dear friend and a mentor for all of my life. The amazing thing about Jean Watson is no matter where she has walked in the world, if a nurse encounters her, by the time Jean leaves the room, that nurse is bigger than she knew she was to begin with. People go back to graduate school after speaking to Jean. People are bold enough to do the right thing to take care of their patient after speaking to Jean. People are fulfilled in being a nurse after speaking to Jean. In my estimation, it is that very personal connection she has made with each one of us. That alone is a reason why she deserves the Living Legend Award.
Dr. Watson, will you please come to the podium to get your award?
Well, indeed, this is such a distinct honor and such a privilege to be in this position at this moment in time as a living legend from the American Academy of Nursing, and I thank you so very much for this distinct honor. What it means to me, really, is that it is a hopeful promise and an affirmation that this work will continue to live on in terms of human caring and healing and health, and even our relationship with peace in our world that nurses offer every single day. So it has been the inspiration of nurses around the world that has inspired me and really elevated me, and I thank so much my sponsors and Dr. Swanson and her beautiful words. But also I want to acknowledge the University of Colorado and the faculty and staff and administration there over these years. They have been incredibly supportive, and they have helped me to launch my career in carrying science from the very beginning. So all of my academic home at the University of Colorado has continued to anchor me, so to speak, as my home. And I certainly want to acknowledge, in more recent years, the Watson Caring Science Institute Board and the beautiful faculty that are involved in extending this work and really radiating it further into the world. I'm terribly appreciative, of course, of my family and my late husband, Douglas, who was a great support, as many husbands are, in terms of allowing us to excel in this work. And also, more recently, on a personal level, I want to acknowledge Ronald Lisinski and his support and his vision that he holds with me about this work at a bigger level, because we are making critical contributions to human caring and healing and really moving toward a new science model, I do believe, that is emerging from all the disciplines now as nursing provides leadership for transforming our systems from the self all the way into society. So it is indeed a privilege. I'm terribly grateful for this honor. I'm also very humbled by it because it is such a distinction for celebration of nursing in our world. So for that, I give credit to all the nurses in the world. Thank you so very, very much.
all of our honorees are so well deserving, and I think that they, in their entirety, deserve a round of applause as well. This is not the end of our opportunity to honor our outstanding colleagues. At the conclusion of this ceremony, please join us for a reception across the hall in the Columbia Ballroom, where you will all have a chance to talk with each other, to meet our living legends, and to enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you all so much for coming.